Hi guys, how's it going? Well, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Navattic team, for having me. And hopefully this is like more like a conversation. So these slides are very casual. So stop me if something resonates or want to dive deeper. And let's see if I can use this. Oops. Okay, great, it works. Okay, perfect. So. Before I start, just kind of setting a little bit of context on what we're going to talk about. I run partnerships, enterprise partnership for our team. And we sell marketing automation mainly to retailer, hospitality. So think any brands like Alo Yoga or, did I do something wrong? Okay, perfect. So I guess overall, sales-led company focus on some key industries, commerce, retail, hospitality, and partnership drives a meaningful portion of our revenue. Context that we're going to be solving for, and the reason why I got so excited about Navattic when we first started using this, is because we want to solve for enablement, we want to solve for awareness, and ultimately that leads to accelerating pipeline. Conversationally, what we say internally with our team is, do we have a Kate? And so who is Kate? So Kate is like this super knowledgeable person that works at Accenture, that works at Ogilvy. She knows every single product, and she knows our product ideally so well that when it's the right time, she knows how to introduce Bloomreach. So every time that we work on a deal, every time that we onboard a new partner, like this is the question that my boss would ask me. She's like, okay, that's okay. We can go after that partner, but do we have a Kate? Oops, I clearly don't know how to use this. All right, so there are two main personas that we are building use cases and leveraging Navattic for. And we'll talk about them in just a second. But the first one is very much to C-suite. Talking to a few folks here, I hear from you that a lot of you have a sales-led motion. Is that right? At least like my table. Most of the people had a sales-led motion. Okay, so selling to partners is not that different than selling to regular prospects, but really the idea is that you have two main stakeholders. One is the C-suite, and the other one is Arcade, which is the main persona. Oops. Okay. So the first user and the first use case is big. And the reason why I started with big is because obviously he's unaware, is interested, is too busy to care. He doesn't know what we do. He doesn't know who I am. He really just doesn't care about me. So here's the thing though, we actually do know. We actually do need to have big to care about us because Kate is not going to do anything unless she has executive sponsors buy-in, right? So the way in which we've been using Navattic is that we basically use the tour to give Big to a high-level awareness stage. Big will never reply my emails, so I actually, don't need to have too many interaction points with Big, but I can see when they took the tour, and we'll talk about how we operationalize that in a second. But generally, that's kind of like the main use case, right? So we start brief interactive tour. Big is like checking the box and seeing that oh, okay, Bloomreach can do the functionality. And then, eventually, we move Big from, oops, you guys, what a struggle. Eventually, we move Big from, does not care, does not know who I am, until the stage where he's calling his team and saying, okay, perfect, this is the right product, let's go after this. Okay. And so, thinking about, we'll dive into this in a second, but the general framework here is that we built a ton of tours when we started using Navattic. When I'm speaking to C-suite, we actually don't send them here, because if we send them here, they're going to get lost, and they're going to get lost in the features, versus what I need is just a high-level check that this product is going to work for them. And so one of the things that we really track is, oops, I'm so sorry. I'm just used to saying next, So one of the things that we really track is our C-suites is Big basically going to check the main tour of the platform. Okay. So they start here, and the goal, again, is to get them to awareness. Okay, now on to the second use case. This is the very important one because this is actually what drives awareness. Enablement is what ultimately is going to drive long-term pipeline and accelerated pipeline. And so enabling the K is the most important thing. Enabling the K is expensive. And so use cases here is really just starting to give her an overview of things that matter to Kate. And so typically at this point, when I'm speaking to this person, whether it's via email, whether it's on the phone, whether it's however that is, I know exactly what are the few use cases that she's looking for. And my goal is for her to say, okay, great, let's schedule a demo and let's go even deeper on these use cases. So my ultimate goal is for her to show up to a demo ready to ask questions. Because I know that when that's happening, we're no longer talking about the what, we're talking about the how. Right? And so that's actually how I know that the deal is really going to happen. Okay, perfect. So again, so in this case, if I am building out a sequence for Kate, I'm not sending her to a general overview of the product because she knows it. She lives it every single day. She implements it for customers. She knows what's going on. I'm sending her to a very, very specific segment of what we care about. And in this case, actually, is like, the Bloomreach is their marketing automation product. So I would send her down like a segmentation problem, and I would send her like a specific tour that is developed for that use case. Okay, perfect. So I'll pause for a second. Is everything clear following? Okay, great. So again, two main use cases that we adopted as a partnership team. One is big, getting more interested. Two is K, get them on a real demo and get them really excited. Thinking, how do we create more Kates? I am kind of joking, but it's a very serious problem because that's actually what drives your pipeline from linear growth to accelerated growth. And so we are constantly thinking about this. And I used to work for a guy that, one of my former bosses used to tell me that enablement is like waves on the beach. So you're never done. And so the way in which we approach the tour is very much like waves on the beach. You're never done. You start, you teach something, you gotta keep going. You gotta remind them the product is gonna change. Now that we can personalize, maybe we'll personalize the tours, right? But again, the key thing here is that for us, Navattic, like the business problem that we're solving is that ultimately I wanna get to a place where they know who we are and they're ready to work with us. And so the way in which we're thinking about the tour is how do we get them to know us, know exactly what we do, ready to work. Know us, exactly what we do, ready to work. And Navattic is like a pretty relevant touch point within that flywheel. So the tactic here, so taking a step back, like how do we make that happen and how can we relate that at scale? And maybe I hope that some of this is also relevant for people that are not in partnership, but just broadly looking to have lean growth. So the step one really was not done by me. It was done by our product marketing team and a few product leaders that are actually amazing. That's what I told you. I will connect them with you. But all of this is to show you that, first of all, it doesn't happen overnight. And second of all, they were super, super prescriptive at the use cases and how they thought about the personas and the various tag and like what were those people in that journey. So I think kind of properly having a proper catalog of all of your use cases, especially within enterprise and complex problems, this was, I think, kind of foundational. Steps two is, this is, as an example, if I'm thinking of the C-suite, right, like zooming into like that spreadsheet, like key segment of that spreadsheet where, the title, the persona, and the relevant pain points. There's a lot more detail in that spreadsheet. If someone wants to see it, I have it on my laptop, so I'm happy to have that conversation too. But yeah, so we were talking about this in our table, and I think this is something that it's actually underlooked. And I know myself from working in enterprise that people buy technology and then they think it's magically gonna work, and then nothing happened, people don't use it, and it's done. And so how do we actually drive adoption internally so that we can then drive adoption externally? So the first thing that we did, and again, I take zero credit for this, but I thought it was genius and hopefully it's helpful. They made it mandatory. So we have boot camps every single quarter. And typically the boot camp would be, learn about AI, review this product feature, learn how to pitch this. Instead of making it a boot camp on that, they made it on the tour. So every single person in the sales team, SDR, and even partnership, we had to send out 10 different tours to 10 different people, which I think it's perfect because it's very much like habit forming, and it creates a habit of sending those tours out. And also, it's kind of like a free risk environment because you're like, you have to get trained. You have to do this. You have to send this out. And if nothing happens, like if a prospect does not reply, the salesperson is probably not paying attention to remember. Like if this actually didn't go well, there was almost no risk. But generally it goes well, right? Like they form the habit, they try it out, they see they like it, and then they can start using it for some of the other use cases. The second thing is the HubSpot Zapier Slack integration, which gives you a notification and it tags the user. You can see right here that me and this person are going back and forth on this reply because they tagged someone, which is great. And so people get immediately notified. I think some of the other features that you guys are talking about of like having it integrated will be very, very relevant, but that's along those lines. And then the third thing that we are now testing, and again, I just put the screenshot of like me and my team looking at turning that into something else, which is basically, we did all of this. We kind of started in somewhat of a manual way. So right now, I am the algorithm. My team is the algorithm. We're not creating sequences that are based on behaviors or things like that. We are creating sequences that are based on what do we know about our prospect, what do we know about our partners, and then manually feeding that into various sequences. What I want to start doing is actually making that a little bit more programmatic and a little bit more scalable. And so that's actually going to be what we focus on between now and the end of the year, and hopefully be ready to release that next year. And I think that's it.